Right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, welcome everyone to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you being here on this wonderful windy Friday. We are live here on WYSL until 1 p.m., and that means you can participate in today's show by giving us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. And, today's show I want to talk about a big court case that happened and some of the implications I think could be of that court case. And I want to speak to a fan request as well. A fan asked me to look into a medicine that could be used to treat COVID-19, but there's some issues with doctors being able to use it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that on today's show. And again, send me this stuff. Send me messages on Facebook if you are interested in having me cover a topic. I'm not going to do all of them. Sometimes I don't think it's a good show topic, or I can't figure out how to cover it effectively, but I do look at this stuff and I'll respond to you and I'll tell you if I think this is worth doing. I love the request. Keep saying it my way. And again, shout out to my friends listening online on that Facebook page, the Kevin Wilson Facebook page where that request came in. But of course, listen to us over at A Free Solution on Facebook or on YouTube, and you can follow me on Twitter too. We're on there as well. So thanks for joining us. And thanks for listening today. And we already got a comment too. Jamie says, Kevin, what's up with Mayor Warren's meeting tonight? I don't know what specific thing you're talking about. I mean, if you're talking about the reparations thing, if I have time, I will talk about that. If I don't use up the rest of the show and the other topics, I do want to talk about that briefly, because that is certainly something that caught my eye. It's the Mayor Warren reparations stuff. So we'll get to that and talk about what that might look like and whether or not that is a good, bad, terrible thing, whatever it's going to be. We'll talk about what I think about that. And there's only a little bit of details on it, but we'll get to it. But I do want to talk, my main topic I want to talk about today is I wanted to talk about this court case. It's not up at the Supreme Court yet, but it's a court case, and hopefully Caniglia versus Strom. And it's a court case, and I'll share the headline for those listening online. I'll share the article from Forbes. The headline is, Biden administration urges Supreme Court to let cops enter homes and seize guns without a warrant. That is quite the article, quite the headline there, and definitely caught the attention of me and the Second Amendment community and the Fourth Amendment community. People who care about the Fourth Amendment and longtime listeners to the show know that that's a big issue for me. You need to be secure in your home and your papers. The government has no right to go out and take your stuff. So this is a big Fourth Amendment case, but also I think a Second Amendment case. And the Biden administration is advocating for a really dangerous precedent. And this goes back to a case back in 2015 where there's a man named Edward who got into an argument with his wife. Some things escalated. At one point in time, he, dramatically put a gun on the table and says, why don't you shoot me and get me out of my misery? And then his wife left. And then eventually she called the cops. And they did a wellness check. And they went, entered his home, and officers spoke to him, and they said that he seemed normal, seemed calm, saying that he wouldn't commit suicide. They, didn't really ask the professional questions that they're supposed to ask. He had no criminal history. He had no history of violence, self-harm, and, they didn't really see any psychological risk factors for him to harm himself or others, even though he had a gun in the house and he did something dramatic here. But the police said, well, despite the fact that they didn't have any of that stuff, they said, well, maybe he could hurt himself, so we're going to go into the house anyway. And he was saying, his mental health's none of their business, it doesn't matter. when he did let the police in the house, the police said, well, we're not going to take your guns. Guys, don't believe the police when they say they're not going to do something. I mean, no disrespect to police officers out there, but they can and often do lie in the course of doing their job in order to obtain evidence. That is something that happens. It's not supposed to happen, but it has happened often enough that you should not believe police officers when they say something like that. Because if they see evidence of something, it doesn't matter if they say, oh, we're not going to do this. They could still do that. Conditions change. If they suddenly get, a reason to take your stuff or accuse you of a crime when you let them in your home, that can happen. Lesson here is do not let the police into your home without a warrant. Because these police didn't have a warrant. They came in, did their check, and they seized the guns. And that's what ended up happening is they ended up taking these guns. And they didn't say it was an emergency. They basically kind of misled the couple into saying that they were consenting to having their guns taken. And that's how these things can get really tricky, is if you're not paying attention to what's happening. Police, who are, again, the enforcement arm of the state, they can enforce gun laws. They will enforce gun laws. Don't think that they're not going to do that. The police said, well, we're doing a community caretaking action, is how they framed it. Basically, they believed that there was a compelling reason to get into this house, seize the firearms, even though they hadn't consented to that, they hadn't requested that, and there wasn't a legitimate mental health reason to do that. And that in and of itself is tricky. But there was no legitimate mental health reason to do that. There was a warrant in this case. They just went in and took those guns. And the Biden administration is defending this. Now, this won't surprise listeners of this show. We know where the Biden administration stands on gun rights. But this is shocking, not just from a Second Amendment point of view, but again, from a Fourth Amendment point of view. Police officers should not be able to go in and take any property, especially guns, but any property, without a warrant, without good cause. We have due process, and we have Fourth Amendment. They need a warrant to be able to come in and take this stuff. This is also concerning because the Biden administration claims to care about things like what happened with Breonna Taylor, where police can just go in with a flimsy excuse because they believe that there may be firearms in the home, there may be activity in there. Why would you want to expand the ability of police officers to be able to enter homes without a warrant if this is something you care about? And we did a whole show on Breonna Taylor and what happened there. But if this is something you care about, this is taking a step further. Now you need even less of a reason to enter a home for things like taking your guns. This may be, and I said this on my Facebook, I think without exaggeration, this may be one of the most dangerous cases that we've seen in a while. This isn't at the Supreme Court yet. It's at the First Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, but it may get up to the Supreme Court. I imagine it might be. The ruling for this, extending the community caretaking exception, like how could the police, how could the armed agents of the state justify any sort of actions? Because, well, we had to make sure that they were being taken care of. We had to make sure that we were just doing this for their own good. And that's basically what this ends up doing, for their own good. And, we have groups like the ACLU, Cato Institute, American Conservative Union, all fighting this. They all filed briefs to talk about why this is a dangerous, very dangerous erosion of civil liberties. Like, to me, I look at this and this is chipping away at the final vestiges of Fourth Amendment protection for your home itself. I mean, we've already decimated that, the protections for the Fourth Amendment for digital communications, and the government is continuing to find ways to make sure that they can break down or make illegal encryption so you can have secure communications, which, again, the government doesn't realize the dangerous security impacts of that, not just for going after bad guys, but for secured communications that you wouldn't want criminals being able to get secure information from. We need to make sure that we are paying attention to this case. We are talking to our federal representatives about this and making sure that this isn't something that becomes normal across the country. We can't allow the police to go in and take guns or any property, go into our homes at all without a warrant. They can't just say it's for their own good. It's fine. All right, so thanks again for joining us here on The Free Solution. If you have thoughts on this, make sure you comment online or give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
When you've been seriously injured in a car crash, you need a lawyer who knows how to beat the big insurance companies. Call me and I'll take them on so you can focus on your health and family.
Car crash, call Salino. Salino, call Salino. 888-2020.
Main Street, Rochester.
A message from the National Police Association. It used to be that any able-bodied person would offer to assist a police officer in danger. Now, passers-by are more likely to take a video. There's a better use for your phone when an officer's in trouble. Call 911. Tell the operator where you are and what you see. Then, start your video to provide evidence later. To learn more about how you can assist law enforcement, visit nationalpolice.org. That's nationalpolice.org.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
A free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We're live here on WYSL until 1 o'clock. So give us a call, 585-346-3000 if you have thoughts on this case. Or send us a comment online too. Appreciate your comments there as well. But shout out down the line to our friends listening over at WACK out in Newark and WENY, the Patriot down in Southern Tier. Appreciate y'all being here as well. We're talking about the court case. It's in the lower courts now. It's not the Supreme Court yet, but I'm betting it's going to be. But it's Caniglia versus Strom. Caniglia v. Strong. And I think it has some pretty dangerous Fourth Amendment implications. And Second Amendment implications too. Again, if agents of the government, and that's what the police are in this case, can just go in and say, well, for your own good, we're going to go in and take your guns, you essentially have no Second Amendment rights. If they can make up a reason, say, well, for your own good, for your own health and safety, were able to go in and do this without a warrant, without a ruling from a judge, without any sort of due process. You don't have that. And beyond the Second Amendment, too, what else can they just go in? The Fourth Amendment says that you need to be secure in your person and property. You need to be spared unreasonable search and seizure. There's in the article that I posted in the online stream of this, there's a good link to the Institute for Justice amicus brief for this, and they talk about the harms of unreasonable searches and seizures. The Biden administration is arguing that this is a reasonable search. Again, they are saying that the Department of Justice is saying that the police had a reasonable reason to do this, to convince him to enter their home and then suddenly take a new action to take this man's firearm. And, and I don't know much about this guy. I don't know what the other circumstances are, but the process for this is really important. In New York State, we have, a significant erosion of gun rights. We've seen that from the SAFE Act and the push for expanded red flag laws as well. And establishing a process for doing that and understanding what that process is for taking away firearms is incredibly important. People need to know what that is. What are the conditions that can allow the police to take a firearm away? What conditions warrant that? Who gets to make that decision? A judge, a police officer? Who gets to make that call? And then what is the process for appealing that decision? Making sure you understand those rights is incredibly important because, again, the government shouldn't be able to just go in and take any of your stuff, but particularly take away your right to self-defense without due process. You have an inalienable right to self-defense, one that the Second Amendment, it doesn't give you that right to self-defense. It just restricts the government, both the federal, state, and local governments, from taking that right away. And what this ruling would do, if it were established through the Supreme Court, and I would like to think that the Supreme Court wouldn't go along with this, given that there's a longer history of protecting the Fourth Amendment at the Supreme Court. But you never know. We never know how these things are going to turn out. And this could have pretty serious implications for all of us. Even if you're not a gun owner out there, dude, this affects you too. Can the government just come in and say, well, we have a health and safety reason for believing that you may be engaging in harmful behavior online. We're going to seize your laptop today. No, you can't do that. Again, that should be covered by being secure in your person's, papers, property. This is close to, and I'll kind of quote from the Institute for Justice brief, invokes the arbitrary looming threat of general writs that so incited the framers, and undermines the right of people to be secure in their homes. I agree with that. I think that's a valid assessment of what is happening here. A general writ being police have a broad-based, non-specific permission slip from the government, from themselves, essentially, to go and search homes. That is something that the Founding Fathers were incredibly fearful of, for good reason, because they saw their neighbors subjected to that. So we need to put a stop to that. And the other interesting thing about this, too, is it's not just again, not just the Second Amendment, not just the Fourth Amendment thing. The issue of qualified immunity also pops up, too. The Department of Justice also making a defense of the police, in this case, on qualified immunity grounds. And we've done shows on that in the past. And for those of you who don't remember, qualified immunity essentially says that police officers and agents of the government can't be held liable for an action that they're doing on behalf of the government. They can't be held individually liable for that based on qualified immunity. That's what it does. So it makes it really difficult for officers to be sued both in civil court and to be held liable in a criminal sense when someone's rights are violated. And the only way that you can overcome that hurdle of qualified immunity is to prove that the actions violated the constitutional rights of those individuals in a pre-existing case. So unless there's a pre-existing case where this specific thing happened, and there was another ruling saying that police going into a home, misrepresenting to that homeowner that they weren't going to take away their guns, and then they did take away their guns, and that was ruled a violation of constitutional rights, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, whatever. If that already exists in case law, then they can be held liable and qualified immunity doesn't apply. But if there isn't that specific case, and I, not being a judge or lawyer, I don't know how detailed that actually needs to be. But unless there's a specific case, they don't have grounds on that. So that's the Department of Justice backup plan in this case, is to say, well, also qualified immunity. We can do this anyway, they're saying. We can enter homes with under a community caretaking justification, and we can take away your guns. And, what can you do? That's it. But they're also saying qualified immunity too. And that's why you see, again, people from across the spectrum, people who care, political spectrum, who care about civil liberties, bringing attention to this case. And that's why I want to talk about it on today's show, is because there's so many core issues that we've been talking about on the show related to how the Obama administration, going back there, George Bush administration too, the Trump administration, now the Biden administration is carrying on this legacy of chipping away at our civil liberties just over and over and over again. And I'm so frustrated too. President Trump recognized the ways in which the Obama administration was destroying the Fourth Amendment because he was attacked by that. He had the opportunity to implement real reform. And this is kind of the bigger issue of FISA reform and other things. Not really bigger, because I think this is the bigger issue, but the federal level issue of FISA court reform and being able to understand what constitutes a reasonable use of surveillance, particularly on political opponents like President Trump. We could have had that reform. People like Justin Amash were talking about it. People like Thomas Massie were talking about it. And President Trump chose not to pursue that. He complained about it, complained about how he himself was subject to this abuse by the federal government. And when given the opportunity to change it, he didn't. And now we have a Biden administration who they're plowing forward with this type of stuff. We know what we're getting now. We knew that this was going to be the case. We knew that the Biden administration, that Joe Biden himself has not been a champion of civil liberties, and that he is willing to use government power to implement his policy agenda. And we could see that all throughout his political career, and I think we're seeing it now. Now that we have an executive branch that is very powerful, is basically unaccountable, and he's able to use his power through the Department of Justice to take the side against the people in this case. And so it's like things are so mixed up too, because he's taking the side of the police in this case, and the local police. And I'm curious how this will scramble political alliances if people are paying attention to this stuff. Now, are people paying attention to this stuff? I don't know. That's why I'm talking about it today, because I haven't heard as much coverage of this as I would like. A few of the libertarians are talking about this stuff, and weirdly enough, like the far left is talking about this stuff too, because they're worried that they are also going to be subject to these community caretaking searches as well, which is fair. I think that's probably the case. They are going to be subject to this stuff. Like libertarians, conservatives, any enemy of the state. We're going to keep an eye on this. We're going to see where this goes. We'll see if it goes up to the Supreme Court. I think it will. And we'll see if our representatives in Congress will be willing to take any action to protect our rights here, to stop the government from violating the Constitution. Don't hold your breath. Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. If you want to participate in the conversation, give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000, or comment online. Thanks for listening today. We're going to be back with more from A Free Solution in a few minutes.
Stand up for your freedom. AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center. For tonight, we'll see clearing skies. Winds will diminish, turning colder. We'll drop into the 30s. On Saturday, a decent day. A little cooler, but there'll be some sunshine. Not as windy. Temps will be in the 40s and 50s. On Sunday, some rain will redevelop. Turns a little wet for the end of the weekend with temperatures in the 50s. I'm Rich Cornelia on WYSL.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
The Big One. Hot, fresh news and talk. The Big One. WYSL. News Power 1040.
Here are some warm ideas from Springwater Amish Workshop. Cozy up in an American-made, Amish-built solid wood rocking chair. Are the kids a little restless? Keep them active and busy with a solid oak rocking horse, oak child's table and chair set, or rocking chair. Your laundry will dry in no time on a rugged maple clothes drying rack. Local honey topping your oatmeal or pancakes starts any day right. Springwater Amish Workshop still has plenty of bird feeders in stock, colorful and attractive to decorate your landscape. Think spring. Our Amish builders are still experiencing delays in lumber shipments, so be sure to order the storage shed you need right now to ensure you receive it quickly. Be sure to visit to select colors, styles, and features, all at great prices. Springwater Amish Workshop, 7936 Route 15 in Springwater, open Monday and Wednesday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit SpringwaterAmishWorkshop.com or visit them on Facebook.
Planned Parenthood self-identifies as the champion of women's reproductive health. Their annual revenue waterline now stands at $1.64 billion. Oddly, one analysis shows the abortion business providing 72% fewer women's health services than it has in the past. What services are contributing to Planned Parenthood's staggering bottom line, if not women's health care? Recently, an investigative journalist called attention to Planned Parenthood of Central and Western New York's own description of its services. The organization's website claims, quote, nationally, Planned Parenthood is the second largest provider of gender-affirming hormone care, end quote. One might wonder what gender hormone therapy has to do with improving women's reproductive health. Perhaps one former Planned Parenthood employee has part of the answer, saying, quote, trans-identifying kids are cash cows, and they're kept on the hook for the foreseeable future, whereas abortions are a one-and-done situation, end quote. This RealAbortionNews.com update is sponsored by Compass Care.
Spring's the thing at Victor Chevrolet, where it's easy to save and fun to drive your brand new Chevy. Get outside and get some fresh air in your 2021 Equinox all-wheel drive LS. Lease it for just $199 a month for 39 months. Or enjoy the versatility of a tough and roomy 2021 Trailblazer LS all-wheel drive. Lease for only $139 a month for 36 months. Or maybe you'd like a 2021 Chevy Traverse LS all-wheel drive. Just $299 a month for 36 months. Or you can lease the 2021 Chevy Bolt Premier for only $259 $29 a month for 39 months. How about buying a 2019 Chevy Trax LT for only $17,990? MSRP is $26,145, so you can save over $8,000 on this previous loaner vehicle. All these deals include factory rebates, incentives, and discounts. 10,000 miles per year, $2,500 cash or trade, first payment, tax, acquisition, and DMV fees due at signing for all leases. Tier 1 credit approval required. All deals end 3/31/2021. Find new roads at Victor Chevrolet, Route 96 in Victor. Visit VictorChevrolet.com.
What does it mean to bank locally with Tompkins? It means keeping your money in your community with a team of neighbors to guide you through big decisions and milestones. Plus all the convenience of our mobile app where you can manage your account, deposit checks remotely, send money to family and friends, even turn your card off if it gets misplaced, then back on when you find it. Ready to bank locally with the team at Tompkins? Visit Tompkins Bank of Castile online or at a branch to get started. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
A free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you being here. We're here live on WYSL until 1 p.m. So give us a call if you want to participate in the conversation. 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. And shout out down the line to our friends over at WACK out in Newark and WENY, the Patriot down in the southern tier, and our friends listening online as well. Appreciate it over at the Kevin Wilson Libertarian page, A Free Solution Facebook page, A Free Solution YouTube channel, wherever you're listening. Thanks for being here. Thanks for participating in the discussion. So switching gears a little bit, and pay attention to that court case. We're going to keep looking at that. Big Fourth Amendment and Second Amendment implications there. But I'm going to switch gears a bit because, I got a couple messages, a few people tagged me and stuff about this medication, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Ivermectin. And people were asking about this being used as a COVID-19 both treatment and prophylactic, right? And so this is a medication. I think it's actually used in heartworm medication, and it's like an anti-parasitic drug, right? And so people were talking about this kind of in the similar way how people were talking about hydroxychloroquine, which is the malaria medication that people were advocating for as a treatment of COVID-19. It looked like there might have been some early results saying that this could work. And so with this medication, though, Ivermectin, it looked like it had some promising results early. It looked like in Australia, they were using this early on in the pandemic. And what they think they may have found in those early treatments is essentially that it slowed the spread and growth and kind of reproduction of the COVID-19 virus. And I'm glossing over all the scientific business of that. I'm going to give you my layman's understanding of this. I've been reading about this for a few days, but the high level view is basically it slows down the progression of the virus. They thought, that's what the early results look like it might have been the case. So they started issuing this to patients. There's a few countries that started using this as kind of a preventative measure. And, they think it's being distributed in Australia and India and in a couple other places. They're kind of distributing to the population, because the idea being that if this medication slows down the progression of the virus, that gives both your body and doctors enough time to treat it, right? Like your body being that, once it recognizes that a virus is attacking it, the immune system can kind of kick into gear. And before the virus overwhelms the body, it, has the ability to fight it off. And same thing if you're in a hospital setting and you're getting this treatment, the doctors would be able to kind of use this in combination with other treatments to help you out. Now, the reason why people are asking me to talk about this, and again, guys, I do read your emails, I do read your messages. Please send me stuff, because every once in a while we get awesome, interesting topics like this, and I do think it's fascinating what's happened. But the controversial part about this, the reason why people are emailing me about this, is because it's not exactly approved for use, right? So the FDA, and we love the FDA on this show. the FDA says that this is not a drug approved for treatment for COVID-19. They on their website, they talk about how it's a dangerous, can cause serious harm, and they also warn correctly, by the way, that you probably shouldn't use the veterinary version of this drug on yourself. Like, don't go eating your dog's heartworm meds, which some of which contain this drug, ivermectin, to prevent COVID-19. It's not going to work like that. And what they're saying is there may be some dangers to doing this. And so as a precautionary measure, the FDA is saying that it isn't approved. But there are doctors, including a group called the Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance, FLCCC, who's saying that they want to be able to use this on patients. In fact, many of them have used it as treatment, and they've started looking to, draw attention to this as a part of a larger treatment for COVID-19. This isn't what the doctors involved in this are saying. And I know people are emailing me like, oh, if we just all took this drug, we wouldn't get COVID and it would be fine. That's not what the doctors are saying. So like Paul Merrick is one of the leaders of this. And he's saying, people are dying. We treat patients at the bedside. We just need to go through and do this because this seems to be having some positive effect on people. They are seeing that it works. The reason the FDA is slowing down on this is they're like, well, we don't have a comprehensive study on whether or not this is effective. Now, this is less true now. There has been a study since, and we'll talk about that. But there was no randomized control study in any of these areas that started issuing ivermectin as this, and there hasn't been a comprehensive study on whether or not the treatment works better than a placebo in the case of these doctors using this. But the doctors are saying, well, it's working, so why should I wait for a study, and why should I wait for FDA approval to do that? The FDA, and they're doing this with the vaccines too, would rather not approve something even if it could be helpful because there's a possibility that it could be harmful. And they did approve hydroxychloroquine back last summer for an emergency use authorization, and they haven't done that with this. So here's where you run into a problem. I think the evidence on this is mixed at best, but the federal government has made things difficult to study the effectiveness of this medication in treating or preventing COVID-19. They've dragged their feet on this. They've made it difficult for people to do studies. There is a study now. I'll link to it in the online stuff during the break. If y'all want to read it, I'll link to all the stuff that was sent to me, all the stuff I researched on my own. There were some natural experiments that were done, Bangladesh, Argentina, Egypt, but they were done with kind of preventative measures. And when you're doing it in kind of uncontrolled settings like that, it's really hard to tell what specific factors led to someone getting or not getting COVID-19. So it's difficult to tell. But now these doctors, again, they're saying, let's use this. Let's do the studies. Let's figure it out. Let's see if this works. And I do want to emphasize something that these doctors are saying is they're saying that this is to be used in combination with a bunch of different treatments. It's also not meant to be a substitute for vaccination or mask wearing. And I know some of the folks who are emailing me and messaging me are saying that, like, see, we could just all take this drug. We all take ivermectin, and then we don't have to take vaccines anymore. That's not what these doctors are saying. These doctors are saying this could be used as part of a treatment process, and we should be able to explore its effectiveness and use without the government getting in our way, because there's reasons for them to think that this is effective. And actually, I'll talk about a Western New York case of this in a little bit. I probably won't be able to get to this before the break, but there's a Western New York case of this happening here at a Rochester hospital. But what these doctors are saying, again, this isn't a substitute for mask wearing, is to be used with other types of preventative measures. Mask wearing, they think is effective. The vaccines can be effective. This can also be effective and part of a treatment. I know there are other doctors who say that this is the cure-all. Guys, be wary of anyone who says that a single thing, that you have a single solution to a problem. Usually one drug is not going to do that. And for what it's worth, the drug companies, like Merck, which makes this drug too, is saying that there isn't really evidence that it works now, that people are using for this, but there isn't any evidence that it works, and we're not going to back it up. They say, quote, "We do not believe that data available supports safety and efficacy of ivermectin beyond the doses and populations indicated in the regulatory agency-approved prescribing information." In other words, don't use it for things other than using it for parasites. So the drug companies are like, even though they stand to make probably a bunch of money from this, they're also saying, like, guys, please don't use it for this. But there are some doctors who believe it could work, and I think they should be able to explore that, to see what is actually effective. So when we come back, I'll talk about the study that has been done. We'll talk about the FDA, and we'll talk about what happened in Western New York, where a judge ended up intervening to make sure that a woman could get ivermectin as a treatment, and how well that worked out for them. All right, so thanks again for listening to us on Free Solution. If you have thoughts on this, I mean, particularly if you're like a doctor, medical professional, pharmacist listening to this, and you're like, what is he talking about? Or you want to weigh on this, give me a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. We'll be back with more from a Free Solution in a few minutes.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Hi, my name is Ryan Bourne.
And I'm Danica Bourne.
And we're the owners of South Coast Tax. We would like to thank our Lord for protecting us from evil. Psalm 91 states, "He is my refuge and my fortress, for he will rescue us from every trap and protect us from deadly disease."
South Coast Tax are Christian-based tax accountants and attorneys who specialize in releasing bank levies, wage garnishments, and filing complex tax returns. We are the leaders in acceptance of offers and compromise with awesome results.
We are also a small firm who will treat you like family and not just a number.
Call us today at 1-800-TAX-1176 for a free consultation, and we'll take the time to explain all of the programs that you qualify for in order to allow you a fresh start.
In John 8:36, so if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. And one way we can achieve that is by being debt-free. So let us help you today. Call us at 1-800-TAX-1176, and together we can help achieve this goal by putting the IRS tax debt behind you for good. Again, that number is 1-800-TAX-1176.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A-plus Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
A free solution.
All right, welcome back to A Free Solution. And we're talking about ivermectin today. And I'm going to get to a call in a second, but I'm just going to read off just a quote real quick from an article that I shared about this, just their overall summary. And Merrick, who's one of the doctors, and Corey, Dr. Corey, who testified in front of the Senate about this, they say they're frustrated the work's being championed by the political right, become politicized, say they are different from America's frontline doctors, who those are the folks who are talking about the pro-hydroxychloroquine. We did a show on them over the summer. The doctor there had some pretty bizarre views, but they're saying it's not political. They're just wanting to follow the science and the data, and they're saying that the virus does exist, that there are a lot of deaths, and they say they're frustrated with people who say that the virus is a hoax. You know, they're working in ICUs, they're seeing this stuff every day, and they don't want it to be interpreted as their advocacy for ivermectin to be interpreted as undermining vaccination. They were vaccinated, believes this is a bridge to vaccination, and this is just a way to do something in the meantime. So all that being said, we're going to take a call now. We have Dave from Henrietta. Dave, what's on your mind?
Hi, I'm a fan of ivermectin. I think it works, and I think the science is not being shown that it works. I'm looking at a website called C19ivermectin.com, and it says there's 25 randomized controlled trials that have been done, and it shows improvement in most of the people. It can be used for prevention or treatment, and it's almost frequently effective. So, and I think one error that you said was that there's lots of money to be made with ivermectin, and that's really not true. It's been around for almost 3 or 4 decades, and then it's no longer patented, and it's been a cheap medicine for poorer countries and been distributed free by companies like Merck. And I think the reason Merck doesn't like ivermectin is because there's no money to be made on it. And I think that's the reason why Big Pharma doesn't like it. There's no money to be made on it. It's cheap and effective. And then doctors don't seem to like it because it's going to keep everybody out of the hospitals. So I think...
You think doctors want to keep people in the hospitals?
That's where the money is made. It's in hospitals. Why aren't they talking about it? I mean, there seems like nobody's talking about it, but there's a lot more science to it than some of the things that doctors have tried, like this remdesivir. I mean, the World Health Organization recommends against use of remdesivir, but it's still a big drug that's used around the country and then even in our local hospitals like Strong Memorial. So I think there's a lot of bias in the so-called science here, and the science really isn't being followed.
Yeah, I don't know that I can agree to the motivations that you've stated, just because I don't know, right? I think I have kind of a responsibility to not project those motivations on doctors. I don't think that most doctors want to keep people in hospitals. I think they want to keep people from getting sick, and they want to get people well. I think that it's a fair point about, the drug has been around a while, so maybe there's not really a financial interest in doing that. So, like, they don't have any good reason for championing that because they won't make much money off of it if the patent's lost, and anyone can make it, right? The randomized control set, from what I could tell, is there haven't been all that many done that have kind of had conclusive results. And, I shared on my Facebook page a link to one of the trials that's being done, and basically they keep having trouble finding enough data to say one way or another whether it works. And part of the barrier is the FDA, and part of it is just there's some cultural barrier to it, that doctors don't want to risk their patients or their reputations by being a part of this. So big trials are harder to do. So we never get the data on this. So I think there's a cultural barrier, and I think there's also a government barrier to this that is extremely problematic, and that we do need to follow the science. If the science says this is helpful, that the side effects of this aren't worth dismissing this over, and that it does have a preventative or a therapeutic value in treating COVID-19 patients, then yeah, absolutely, we should be doing this. And why are our governments and hospital organizations getting in the way? So,
well, let me ask you a question. If they say more studies are needed, why isn't the government funding those studies?
You know, I have no idea. I don't know why the government wouldn't fund those studies. They fund everything else, right? And for that matter, you know, why aren't other private organizations funding these studies? The government doesn't need to do this necessarily. The private organizations could do that. And from what I can tell, there are some studies being done. I said there's some studies that are happening there. I think the FDA, they always err on the side of caution in these things for the most part. I think they are timid to allow people to do stuff. We see that with vaccines. We see that with other drugs. Stuff takes years and years to get to market for approved treatments because they put so many barriers in the way of being able to do testing.
Yes, the vaccines are brought to market within 9 months for COVID.
Yeah, I mean, but they did have the testing done with those, and then these are technologies that have existed for a little bit. And I mean, I think it's good. I think actually, my take on the vaccines is that they took too long to get to market. In fact, the FDA is still holding up the AstraZeneca vaccine. There are tens of millions of doses available, and if Americans want to consent to taking the risk to taking those doses, which are available in Europe right now and in other countries, then we should be able to do that. Let's just get the government out of the way. Have control over your body, and that should be a discussion between you and your doctor. In the same way, you know, I think that if there is some medical use for this, for ivermectin, doctors should be able to do that without fear of punishment. If there's scientific evidence to back it up. I kind of agree with you on this. I don't know that I would take it as far as you.
Here's the deal. I mean, the CDC hasn't recommended the use of ivermectin. They've come out with a neither for or against, which allows doctors to prescribe it off-label. Now, ivermectin is FDA approved and has been FDA approved for 3 or 4 decades for parasitic infection. So doctors, you know, say 10 to 20% of the prescriptions are off-label use. That is not the FDA-approved use. Mm-hmm. Why are doctors willing to prescribe it? I think you'll find that doctors are not willing to prescribe it unless the CDC recommends its use. And I find that it's terrible that, you know, they say we need more studies, but the CDC, NIH, and FDA aren't willing to fund those studies. And people are dying while they're saying, you know, we're not sure if it's safe. Well, you know, why don't people have the right to try? Why don't people have the right to get those prescriptions from their doctors?
They do. I mean, the doctors themselves have to be willing to stake their reputation on this, because if just imagining lawsuits, if they prescribe something that is not a CDC or FDA approved use for a drug and something goes wrong, suddenly they're liable for that. They're staking their reputations on the line with this stuff. And Dave, we are running out of time, so I'll give you 30 seconds to wrap up. Any other things you want to say about this, and then we got to go. We got to close up the show.
Okay, well, I'm a fan of ivermectin, and I'll believe that it should be used for everyone that wants it.
Yeah, right on, man. Yeah, again, I kind of agree with you on that. If you want to be able to do that, you should be able to do that. It's your body. You should be able to put in your body what you want. And if a doctor's recommending it as treatment or preventive measures, then by all means, that's a discussion that should take place between you and your doctor. The government shouldn't get in the way of that. All right, thanks for the call, Dave. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the messages about this stuff. This is an interesting topic I've been diving into, and I hope you guys found it interesting too. Thanks for joining us here on A Free Solution. We'll be back next week. You'll hear Larry Sharp on Monday, and I'll be back on Wednesday. Take care.